Oh, she is. Okay. Well, I want to welcome everybody. This is Coordinated Community Response, and I'm Margaret Robin, and I do Family Promise as well as Appalachian Promise. And we have these meetings every fourth Friday from 11 to 12. We meet only on Zoom. We started during COVID when we met weekly when we didn't know what kind of funding we had, who was sick, who wasn't sick, how many people we were going to feed in our parks, or where we were going to house people with everybody being sick. So that's how we got started. And we've continued to meet. We also try to coordinate a little bit with Bristol Coalitions, which is Bristol, Virginia, out of Bristol, Virginia Housing that's met for many, many years. They meet on the second Tuesday. So we try to coordinate some of our programming. They meet in a hybrid fashion, but it's a good way for networking, for getting updates, for seeing who else is doing the work. And then also we're excited about our the programs that we're able to offer. And we really try to get ones that are either Bristol, Tennessee, and Virginia combined, or we try to get the same program that's mirrored in both, or a program that perhaps is in one state or the other that is a really good program that could be looked at for expansion. So that's part of our goals for what we do. So, and I think that's probably what I want to say at this point. We're excited. We hadn't met since I think, when was the last time we met? Did we meet in January? No, it's been a while since we've met. That's why I put that in that. Yes, it's been a good while since we met, because of cold weather and just being overwhelmed, etc. So, also at the end, I've got a bunch of dates, and hopefully, when I send out a follow up that I don't always do a good job of, but I will try to do that with a lot of flyers and a lot of things. Also, if y'all are not part of Strong Accountable Care Community, Strong ACC, they send out a weekly email that you scroll through, and it has all the flyers for different events and different things going on. So some of these may have already appeared and certainly will be appearing. The other communication tool we have in our area is Gary McGow, and he's with Bristol Organizations, and he sends out regular emails whenever people send him information and ask him to send out. He's very good about sending that out. So if you're not part of that, I'll try to put that also in the follow-up email. All you have to do is email him and say, add me to your list. And it's a regular email, not a newsletter, a MailChimp or Constant Contact or whatever. So today we're really excited to get started in 2026 with Zac Holt and the table, and also and I don't have it written down, the Isaiah program as well. And he has been doing the table for a little bit and working in recovery. So he'll further introduce himself, and he'll also introduce Uriah Booher, who's here part of the program, who will share as well. So Zac, we'll let you go ahead with further introductions. Also, Zac, if you want to hear more about Zac, go to Emory and Henry's radio programs, and I think it's called Come to the Table. And he has some lovely radio interviews, some that he's spoken on quite a bit, he and his wife, and then also he has guests on his program. So he's quite adept. Those presumably are not video, and you probably have ear things on and a microphone. So we'll see how you do on this one. So thank you very much, Zac. Also, my internet has been weird. Karen George, who's on here, she's great with filling in and helping with technology, etc. So, She will help out if I disappear and come back again. And YouTube channel, don't forget, we have that. You can also refer people to that. If you know we had a really good program, you can send people to the YouTube channel to be able to catch it and see. I've found that to be very handy to be able to say, oh yeah, Healing Hands' new behavioral program. We heard from them. Check it out on our YouTube channel. So, also, Andrea Hopkins just joined. I will say, hopefully, she'll be able to be there for the most part. She is a family physician with ETSU and here in Bristol, and she is working on her public health degree as well. So she is joining us today as much as she's able to during this time period. If we have time, we'll go through, of course, with announcements and introductions at the end. Okay, Zach, I was throwing it to you one time and I didn't, so this time's real.
I want to thank you for having us on and getting a chance to talk about what we've been up to for the past several years is always exciting, and it's always a blessing to get to share. So yeah, my name is Zac Holt. My wife Victoria and I live here on Euclid. We got married about 4.5 years ago and bought a house on Euclid. And we have three grown kids between us. One is 23, 22, and 21. So they're great kids, love them to death. And we have a full life. And our dog Bo is around here somewhere, a golden doodle. And he is a disaster, but he's kind of our ministry mascot. He goes around with us everywhere. And um, so So what we do is largely kind of birthed from a long season of addiction and darkness that I was walking in, and moved to the area in 2007 and got stuck and stayed stuck. I felt like I just sunk lower and lower and was in and out of jail and on and off the streets and recovery centers, and just nothing was working. Just it seemed like the more I scrambled, the deeper I sunk, and had an experience in a jail cell at Abingdon Regional Jail in the very beginning of 2017. I got out of jail and had the opportunity to step into a Washington County drug court, and with that, started opening up and being honest about my shortcomings, and getting a mentor and getting plugged into a community around me where I felt accepted and known. And then as the couple years went by, and there was a lady from our church that was in a nursing home, and so decided that I'd just go and pay her a visit. And over the course of those visits, I found out that that they didn't have any Bible studies or anything like that going on. And as a person of faith, I was like, well, I could do something simple and small. And the first day I showed up, I met a woman named Susan who didn't want to be there. They forgot to take her back to her room after crafts, and so she kind of just got stuck. And over the course of the next several weeks, she kept coming back. She felt something that she'd felt abandoned, I think, was felt shame, felt like her family just forgot about her and moved on. The average person in a nursing home gets less than one visit per month for under 1 hour. And most people get less than that, which is just tragic. And so watching Susan grow in faith and find community and find joy, it sparked something in me that I considered, and I wondered, maybe this is why I went through what I went through, to soften my heart to those who feel ashamed and cast aside and forgotten. And so what I've seen over the past several years has been this progressive evolution of new doors and new spaces that God has opened for us to start stepping into recovery centers and jails and juvenile detention center and mental hospitals and rehabs and detoxes and anywhere and everywhere that we identify a population of people that are outside the margins. We just step in with the love of God, and the ministry of presence is a powerful thing. And so we got organized-ish in the beginning of 2020, right about when COVID happened, is when we decided we would start to gather on Sunday nights. And there were three of us that were meeting in the cafeteria of Bristol Lifestyle Recovery before it opened. And the thought was, well, we'll just be present here for people that are going through addiction. Having been formed by it myself, I felt like somebody needed to be present there with those folks. And so as COVID came, our plans were derailed a little bit, and so we were sent out of there, and we landed at the Boys and Girls Club in Rice Terrace, and we've been there for over 5 years now, every Sunday. We didn't start serving food at first, but after a few months, people came hungry, and we met that need by starting to serve food, and we do over 10,000 meals every year at the Boys and Girls Club, and it's been a beautiful thing to just be rooted in Bristol, in places where we see those pockets of brokenness and pain, and to see the gospel transforming people's hearts, but also to see the resources that and the network that we've developed to be able to come beside people, not just the soul, but the whole. And so our ministry is called the Table, and the four legs of the table we get from Acts chapter 2, verse 42, where it says they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to the breaking of bread, to fellowship, and to prayer. And so we pray with our community and over our community. We believe in fellowship. A lot of folks that are unhoused, or folks that are in addiction recovery space, like there's not a whole lot of fun, and so we try and create moments and laughter. So that's a key value that we have. Our guys in our program are about to go away for the weekend. We're all leaving here in about 2 hours to go up in a cabin for the weekend just to be together. And obviously, as followers of Christ, we believe in the Word and the power of the Word to bring light and love and transformation into the lives of the least of these, as Jesus would say. And breaking of bread, we love to eat. we we enjoy fellowship, we enjoy meals, we enjoy prayer and the Word. There's a quote by Wayne Gretzky. He says that people were asking him in an interview, "How do you always end up right at the right spot?" And he said, "Well, most people skate to where the puck is, but I skate to where the puck is going to be." And so the quote's beautiful because it cultivates in our ministry the art of anticipation, being creative about ways in which we can meet people when they're at their lowest, with the love that can lift them higher. So as our ministry kind of began to grow, and we were seeing some beautiful things in spiritual development, and we were noticing that because of the cyclical nature of addiction, seasons of being unhoused, incarceration, there was a lot of turnover, and we had a very short window to really walk with people well. Because for us, walking with Jesus is not the finish line. That's kind of just the beginning. And we believe that Jesus has a view for the holistic wellness of those that he comes beside, that it's not just physical healing or spiritual healing, but it's relational restoration, it's socioeconomic restoration, and it's all of these pieces that are important to him. And so we try and embody that. And because of that, we created a space called 117 Discipleship. And in Mark 1:17, Jesus says, "Come and follow me, and I'll make you fishers of men." And we connect that to a recovery principle. We say that if we want to keep it, we have to give it away. And something happens when you're able to tell stories well. Most of us as addicts became pretty good liars. There's a difference between being a liar and a storyteller. Telling stories and doing it well, I think, brings life into death. It brings light into darkness. It creates an opportunity, a bridge, an inspiration, for folks to see that, wow, if Uriah did it, maybe I can too, or if Zac did it, maybe I can too. And so for several years, we were ministering through 117 Discipleship, And the opportunity came open for us to purchase Dr. Mideray's office this past year. So we stepped out in faith. My wife and I put down $1,000 personally on a space that we had no idea how we were going to raise the money for. And then in 60 days, we exceeded our fundraising goal. We were able to pay for it in cash and buy the van in cash, and it's just been a beautiful picture, I think, of what faith in action looks like, because trust is faith in action. And so as I look back at the years, I think I have several stories that just really touched my heart. One of them is a guy named Shane. Shane Bolin was in Bristol for a long time, and when I met Shane, he was on the street and he was high, and his interview is one of our earlier ones on the Come to the Table show. You can hear that through the podcast apps and all that kind of stuff. But I met Shane, and he was not in a good space, but he would tell you that there was something different about the way that we showed up for him, even when he couldn't love himself, he couldn't look in the mirror, he was clothed with shame, which I would argue is the greatest spiritual threat that we face among the marginalized is shame. Brene Brown says that shame corrodes. She says shame corrodes the very part of us that believes we are capable of change. And so shame keeps us stuck. Whereas guilt says I did a bad thing, shame says I'm a bad person. And so Shane felt that shame heavily. And I remember asking him, Shane, if God could do one thing, just one giant impossible thing for you, what would it be? And he said, there's no way. And I said, well, just tell me what it is. Just share it. And he said, my kids live in Idaho. I haven't seen them in 5 years. I want to wake up on a Saturday morning and fix some blueberry pancakes and serve it to them in their bed. That's what I want your God to do. And I said, well, let's pray that. And 3 years later, and after being dismissed twice from our program for relapse, Shane graduated our program. Uh, and about 7, 8 months ago, he called me, and he said, you'll never guess what I'm doing." And he said, "I'm making blueberry pancakes for my boys, getting ready to go serve them in bed." And so we see these beautiful stories of transformation, to take some walk with someone from being unhoused and addicted, and to see the fullness of joy poured into their lives from beginning to end. And it happens, I think, by creating safe spaces for people to heal. The sea anemone can't receive food when it's bunched up in protection, that they've got all these little tentacles, all these little arms, and when they feel threatened, they close up and they cover their mouth, and so they can't receive nutrition, they can't receive what they need to survive, while also being in defense mode. And so it's not until that grip loosens that they're able to receive. And so we create safe spaces for people to be known. There's a Tim Keller quote where he says that to be fully loved and not fully known is shallow and superficial. To be loved, to be known and not loved is our greatest fear. And to be fully loved and fully known is to know the love of God. So we're terrified that if we show people who we really are, that they won't love us. And so many times in circles, we see a shallow and a superficial kind of love that's not rooted in intimacy, and knowing people. And until you're seen and until you're known, you can't really heal. And until you find that safety and security, you can't heal. And so we're passionate about creating some of those safe spaces for people, to be seen and to be known. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so whether it's through a tent or a tarp on a Sunday night at the Boys and Girls Club, whether it's through Christmas carols in a hygiene pack on Christmas Eve, whether it's Easter eggs for the kids, or whether it's basketball ministry at the Boys and Girls Club, or whatever it is that we're doing, it's all done with the intention of connecting with people, who are going through a season of aloneness, and inviting them into the freedom that's found when we can let down our guard and just be there. And so the ministry of presence is a powerful thing. And I invited Shane. I invited Uriah on to share a little bit about kind of what 117 discipleship looks like on the ground. As our house manager, I met Uriah when he was in jail, and he came out and joined the program, graduated the program, and now is just best friend and right hand. He's amazing. But I'm going to share one last thing, and then I'll pass it to him. That um, we don't always see great successes, and sometimes the success is still in process, and we believe that there's the path to recovery is not linear, and it's sort of all over the place sometimes. And we had one of our program participants who, when he came to us, he had recently gotten out of prison, long sentence in prison, and had joined a Aryan Brotherhood, and was just had just this darkness and this hatred in his heart. And his family had abandoned him, and he'd gone through just unspeakable trauma in his early childhood and throughout his time in prison. And he'd never really known anyone to be there for him and to stay there for him. And so all of that love, and he grew so much, but he had a slip. And so whenever we sat down with him, our saying is that there's always a path back to our program. That's never we wish you the best. It's, hey, here's the steps that are necessary. If you want to see this thing through, the door is open. But this is what accountability looks like, and these are what the next steps look like. And so he decided to go to detox, and go through a 30-day program, and after that to reapply and rejoin and restart the program with us. And so even though it's hard to have to make some of those decisions, within that there's beauty and there's grace, because Uriah said yesterday morning he called him from detox, and he said, hey, would you pray with me before I go into my group meetings for the day? And so there's still that love and still that connection, that they know that even if we have to make a decision, that decision is made with love, and it's made with a long arc in mind of okay, what does restoration look like, and what does the promise look like at the end of kind of this hard season. So I'll pass it off to Uriah, and he can share his heart. And so, man, why don't you take it away from there?
Yeah, thank you. I'm not the communicator Zac is, but I'll tell you. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So I grew up in church, felt the call to ministry at a young age, 15 years old. Thought I was going to be a youth pastor, and turned 18, and addiction grabbed a hold of me. I struggled with addiction for the next 20 years. Um, Found myself, much like Zac, in Abingdon Regional Jail. I was in a place where hadn't talked to my family in 2 years, my mom and dad in 2 years, my oldest son in 2 years. My fiance said that she never wanted to see me again, and that I was going to have a hard time seeing my youngest son. And I was in Abingdon with in my mind, nobody, and picked up a Bible and started reading. And the very first verse that God led me to was in Romans, and it said, my gifts and callings are without repentance. They're irrevocable. And I said, God, I have nobody. Do with me as you will. And wound up, Abingdon Regional has a program called the TOP program, the Opportunity Program. It is a faith-based program. You at 6:30 in the morning, you get up and you go to the table and you read and you pray, and volunteers come in all day long. And the first Thursday I was in there, this tall, big dude come in and said, I'm forming an army in Bristol to take back ground that the devil's stolen. And I sat there and I listened to Zac, and at the end of the service, I went up and I said, I want to be part of your army. and I sat in there for the next 8 months, and all the stuff that I learned as a child was coming back to me. And it comes time to get out, and about a month before I got out, my fiance had messaged me, and we started communicating again. Let me go back about halfway through while I was in the program. One Friday, I got a letter from my oldest son, and he said, "I love you, and I miss you, and I forgive you." And I remember that feeling. I hit my knees and started praising God. And anybody that knows me knows that my favorite promise of the Bible is in Joel 2. And it says, "If you turn to me with your whole heart, with weeping, with fasting, with mourning, and rend your heart and not your clothes, I will restore to you the years the locusts have eaten." And the locust had eaten a lot of my years. And so it's time to get out. And I could have went with my fiance, lived with her, but I knew that I needed the community. So I joined 117, and it was just, it was an amazing experience. And so we do a church service on Sunday morning at the BLR. And Sunday is our 2-year anniversary. We've been doing it for 2 years. But I remember that February, we decided that we just felt that God was calling us to do church in the recovery center. And when we talked to Zac had tears in his eyes, and he said, I want you to know, he said, this was the original plan that we had, and COVID kicked us out and couldn't let us do it. He said, I feel that the plan that I saw was not for me, but for you. And we go in every Sunday morning, and we take some chairs out of the cafeteria, set them up in the parking lot when it's warm, if not in the cafeteria, and we just take the word of God. We have somebody different open up, share their heart every Sunday morning. And through that, we've seen guys, they'll show up on a Sunday morning, and then we'll see them on a Sunday night, and then we do Bible studies throughout the week, and we'll see them showing up through that space on Sunday morning. It's brought to us some of our best program participants. I think of Justin, but with 117, with me and Zac both being formed by addiction so much, this is where our heart is. So we take guys that have been incarcerated, gone through addiction, homelessness, and we give them a purpose. So many people that we see, that we minister to, they feel worthless. They feel like there's nothing for them, that all that they are is sleeping in a tent behind Eastview Cemetery. And we give these guys purpose. We, all through the week, again, Sunday morning, Sunday night, we have church. Monday night, we have a Bible study here at the house. Currently, we're going through the book of Acts. Tuesday night, different one of our guys goes to BLR, leads Bible study there. Wednesday night, Zac comes in. We have a discipleship meeting. We give them tools to use to not just stay sober, but to be disciple makers. Every other Friday, we do a men's fellowship. They go and play mini golf. A couple weeks ago, they went throwing axes. But just a time for these guys, like Zac said, our Acts 2:42 is our DNA, and part of that's fellowship. But to watch these guys, that I think one of our fellas, Kenny, he started coming around, and for the first month that he come around, I didn't know if he could talk. He didn't say nothing, and he started opening up. He joined back in December. He moved in back in December, and to watch him go back into where he was and invite people to church, invite people to the fellowship, it's just a beautiful thing to see these guys that they come in, and A lot of them won't talk. They're rough. And to watch these guys transform into people that you want to be around. You know, if you knew most of our guys a year ago, you wouldn't have wanted to be around them. They might have stole from you. A couple of them might have beat you up. But to watch these become men of God that go in on Sunday night and they go around, we serve 125, 150 meals. And while everybody's eating, these guys are going around and asking, how can I pray for you? They're asking, how can we come beside of you? Is there anything that you need? And watching them get so excited about helping, like Zac said, a presence, that ministry of presence, to watch these guys go back into spaces that they were and be present and lead people out. Uh, we say all the time that what we do is messy, it's stressful. We deal with relapses. Um, we deal with fighting. I as house manager, I live here, so I don't clock out. I'm here 24/7. And I say a lot. I feel like I live in a house full of toddlers, because in addiction, you age, but your mind don't age. And these guys are getting sober and they're going back to 15-year-old mentality. They're still teenagers at heart, and there's bickering, but every night we come around this table and we sit and we eat a meal and we talk about our differences. We pray for each other. Uh, it's beautiful. It's messy. It's stressful, but I couldn't imagine doing anything else. To watch these guys step into the river at Alvarado Station in February, when the water is it stings you as soon as you step in, but they're walking into these waters to get baptized because they see that there's more to life than what they're not. They're not the things that they did. They are who God says they are. They are sons of God. They are the salt of the earth, the light of the earth. They're seated in heavenly realms. And to watch that actually sink into the guys. Thinking of my right hand, Richard, here. He's been in the program. He was in the program for almost a year. And when we bought this house, if you'd have asked me then, I'd told you that he wouldn't have moved in here. He was cocky. He was just there. He was showing up, but that was it. And I watched him go from knowing everything when he realized that he didn't know everything, and that switch flipped. And to watch him today, when I'm not here stepping in to lead the guys, it's beautiful. And in 1 Corinthians 11:1, Paul says, imitate me as I imitate Christ. And Zac came before me and he showed me what that truly was. And so I imitated him as he imitates Christ. And now to have these guys imitating Richard, who imitates me, who imitates Zac, who imitates Christ, it's beautiful.
Thank you. Zac?
Yeah, Uriah's love him to death. One of the things that Uriah pointed to that I think is so important, is a lot of the language, especially in ministry and church circles, is there's a focus on what we're redeemed from, what we're saved from, and there is in many cases I think a focus in the wrong direction, that our language is what you're saved for, what you're healed for, what you're redeemed for, and so we point people to a purpose. We use the language of finding our place is locating us, our story, our gifts and our passions and our story. We use the acronym of GPS, like finding your way on a map. And so when we can help people identify what they're gifted at, what they're passionate about, and learn to tell their story and to live out of that story, we get really excited to see purpose emerge from that. An example would be our basketball ministry at the Boys and Girls Club once a month. It started because our guys in 117 were like, "Hey, there's no basketball court in Rice Terrace," and I was like, "Right." And they said, "Well, we have a basketball court at the Boys and Girls Club," and I was like, "Right." And they said, "What if we just open up the doors once a month and just love on the kids and teach them how to grow in their basketball skills and have some fun with them?" And I was like, "Okay, that sounds great." And so that's how the basketball started. And the haircut thing, Richard had a dream about a barber chair in the middle of Cumberland Park, and he came to me and told me about it. And 2 days later, one of our supporters sent us a sent us a barber chair on Amazon. You can get anything on Amazon, and so they take it out and just set up the barber chair and share their stories and talk to people. And I would have to ask Richard who the individual was, but somebody the first time they went out got a haircut, and then because he had an interview the next day, and he was so worried about his appearance and being able to get the job, and so Richard gave him a haircut and a beard trim. And then that next Sunday he came and he shared that he got the job. And so creativity is something that we really value, because it doesn't have to be fancy. It just I think it's just identifying where those gaps are, what those needs are, and then just stepping into it. And rather than waiting for someone else to do it, I think our guys and their passion, it should challenge us all to consider, what are some creative outside the box ways that we can step into the messiness, because it's a beautiful place to be, even if it sometimes is a stressful place to be. So I'm just really proud, really honored of Uriah and all of our guys, and excited with everything that is ahead. And so any other questions that anybody has, we're available and happy for whatever time Margaret gives us left to answer anything that anybody has on their heart or wants to know or wants to contribute.
Right. Does anybody have any questions or comments, or something they want to add?
I'll say I wrote down that quote. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I love that.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's not me. It was I could have told you if you didn't ask. It's on the tip of my tongue. I quote it all the time. Uriah, do you remember?
Uh,
We can
it's
look
not,
it up.
Yeah.
And if so, you have lots of great quotes, Zac. That was one of the good ones. You have quite a few that you utilize. Other comments, questions? So I'll add, so I'm right now, you wouldn't believe it, but I'm in a strong ACC work group meeting at Adeline United Methodist Church. I'm not, it's close by. I'm going back to it. But the work group that Appalachian Promise has participated in is the Supported Second Chance Employment Work Group. And I hadn't been the designated person to go, so I've got some catching up to do. But everybody introduced themselves, said, use one word to describe the working together for the second.
Is she frozen for everybody?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Hang on just a second. Let me see if it
Margaret
brings her
is
back.
frozen in time.
Frozen in time.
It's always so flattering when that happens.
always catches you at the best
I mean,
spot.
Oh, yeah.
I'll give her 1 second to see if it brings her back, and if not, we can move on. All right, it looks like she dropped, so we'll give her a second to rejoin. Does anybody have anything pressing that they would like to share with the group while we're waiting on Margaret to rejoin?
Okay, I'm back.
She's back.
Sorry. Humility, and the last word was together, with working together. Also, there was somebody who works, she's a in recovery and doing this work, which quite a few people are. And she said, talking about the how people feel, and talked about that now she's doing this work that she doesn't feel less than. So that goes into that shame and the different feelings. Pete, did you want to add something? You unmuted.
Yeah, I was just going to say I worked in housing ministry for a long time, and one of the really cool things that we got to do was right after Hurricane Katrina, we took a church gave us a really generous donation to go down for a week and bought all our materials and food and everything. And one of the things that we got to do was we took some really skilled and semi-skilled guys, and we also got to take some guys from a house like 117 with us. And it was just remarkable to see how those guys who had almost always been the recipients of someone trying or someone helping them to get to turn around and help others. And I just wanted to tell you that was an amazing experience that I had to watch them do that. Um, anyway, yeah, it was just a neat thing that happened once.
That's we see our guys with zeal. Whenever they, like I said, they like to go back into the spaces that they were brought out of, and when they have a heart for it.
Yeah.
So at Family Promise, we have volunteers that are people that we have helped to get housed. And we have 3 of them that are some of our strongest volunteers, which great. Also, Appalachian Promise, we have 5 promises from America's Promise. Caring relationships and safe places and a healthy start, effective education, but the last one is opportunities to give back. So recognizing how important that is and what that does for how people have their spirits fed, and also how they can use their skills and have opportunities for networking and all kinds of things when you give back. So anybody else? Okay, so who has, and we've lost a couple of people, who has announcements or things they want to share today? Kevin.
Yeah. Margaret, I'm Kevin France, and I coordinate the food ministries at Fellowship Chapel Church. I started as a volunteer over the kitchen a number of years ago, and then one of our teenagers came to us and said, what about the people out on the street that are not getting fed, that no one's doing anything for at the time? So about 11 years ago, we started with 25 sandwiches and 25 bags of potato chips and 25 bottles of water. And we would come back 2 hours later, semi-disappointed, with 12 bags of potato chips, 12 sandwiches, and 12 bottles of water. But then the relationship built. And last year we fed 12,450 people that are outdoors. Those are individual meals that we served for the year. We do Tuesdays and Thursdays downtown. You will recognize us with the black van. We also provide meals for the Salvation Army and the Haven Arrest one night a week as well. Our new thing is we do have available, and if you do have a spot for it and you want us to come, I do have a mobile food trailer now. We're able to cook food and provide food out of the trailer, and we can set up and serve. I have a great team that's available. Our goal is to be the hands and feet of Jesus. I had a person in the community on my side of town. I'm on the Virginia side of town, and who came up to me and said, well, why do you go out and feed this population? And I'm like, well, everywhere Jesus went, he ate. And there was the time that he was with the tax collectors and the undesirables of the community, and the Pharisees and scribes looked at him and said, look, he dines with those people. Why don't he dine with us? And of course, Jesus' response was, you know the word, they need to hear the word. We did a lot of in-person serving. We had an incident where we were serving where someone pulled a gun on somebody, pulled up in a car and pulled a gun on them. Of course, that immediately put my team back on the van, uh, you know, sheltering everybody we could to get them out of harm's way until that situation was diffused. And now we work with Margaret and the day center, and we serve through the day center. Goal is we'd like to be back in person. My group loves to meet, talk, and work with individuals. And over those past 11 years, I think there's 15 or 20 people that actually started in jobs and still have jobs today, some of them as long as 10 years. And it's great to see. I ran into a woman the other day, had no idea who she was because she looked totally different. I was in a retail establishment and she said, you don't remember me, do you? And I looked at her and then she proceeded to talk about the ladies in my group ministering to her on the street and how she was able to get the job. So we're here. And like I said, our new thing is the food trailer. It is available to go and we can be mobile anywhere. And Zach, I want to know how you get through Cumberland Square Park because we fed in Cumberland Square Park. And the next thing we know is 3 weeks later, we were served a whole list of rules for Cumberland Square Park that if we were going to just temporarily serve, we had to have porta potties, a hand washing station. We always clean up after we serve anywhere. We make sure nothing's left on the ground. So we make sure it's clean. But anyway, we got this list of rules. Either you do it or the city's going to fine you civilly for doing this. And that kind of tried to put a damper on things, but Major Gilliam at the time at Salvation Army, we were able to work some stuff out.
Yeah, I know whenever Richard does haircuts, they kind of just they have just show up, unload the whatchamacallit, the barber chair and the cordless equipment and get them trimmed up for about an hour and fellowship with them and all that and then get out of there. But they've hopefully we won't kick the hornet's nest doing it that way, but nobody's ever said anything to us doing that.
Yeah.
But that's really great to know. So you guys are doing it. You said Tuesdays and
Thursdays. Yes,
That's
sir.
great. That's really great.
Yeah, Tuesday and Thursday at the Family Promise Day Center, a place to be, is open from 9 to 1, sometimes to 3. In cold weather, we were open till 5. And Tuesdays and Thursdays, Kevin provides a bag lunch that is awesome.
That's
And
great.
people we have anywhere from 45 to 75 or 100 who are served those Tuesdays and Thursdays. So, yeah.
Yeah, by the way, Zach, and the young man you were talking about that was part of the Aryan Nation that y'all have been working with, I'm familiar with him. And I'm excited that, y'all have been working with him even more because that's a young man or a man that I knew that there was hope for a long time ago. And we tried and there would be setbacks, but I'm glad you're working with him. And you're right.
Okay.
I'm glad you all are working with him.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you. If y'all don't know, he's kind of understated. They feed all over Bristol for all kinds of groups and everything. It's pretty amazing for how much Kevin France does with his team of workers. So, yeah.
I had somebody talking to me.
Anybody else have anything to share? Any announcements? Because I have a lot. All right, I'll go ahead and start in, and if Karen can share her screen, she'll put stuff up, but we'll try to get things out as we get copies of some of those things. But like I said, the Second Chance employment, they work closely. Founders Forge, which is in Johnson City, which is workforce development, particularly entrepreneurial development group. They have workshops, and the first one is called Avant or Avante. And it is on, and Karen, I don't know if you're able to share or not. Anyway, we'll get this out. This actually doesn't even have a date on it, so I'm going to check why it doesn't have a date. But the first one coming up is March 10th, and it's a 6-week class. There, she might get it. 6 weeks class for it if you want to. And I don't know why there's not a date. If you just apply for it and then they let you know when the next class starts or whatever. But anyway, they also had data about the entrepreneurial that people in recovery, the data is showing that they're 2 to 3 times more successful than people who aren't in recovery. And that's partly from what they've learned and their energy to try to get it, make it work, etc. So, okay. And then March 25th, Linda Austin, who is a guest with us, catching us up on the Hands and Feet Ministry and the Southwest Virginia Anti-Drug Coalition. She has a problem gambling workshop coming up on March 25th. We also heard, and I can't think of his name, his program is on our YouTube. He worked at Highlands and did problem gambling program that was great. You can see it on our YouTube. And he is now over that program at the state level. So pretty cool that we have somebody from here who has done that. So this conference coming up on the 25th, pretty great. I don't have a flyer for the next one. Do I have another one? Yes, one more in a minute. The next one is April 25th, and my husband, who's retired family physician, and others who are looking at our healthcare system and how can we advocate for a better one and what are some of the issues. Thank you, Willard Robertson. Thank you, Brooke. Yeah, he did a great program y'all can watch, and excited to see him at the state level. So it's regional healthcare at Crossroads. It's going to be at Southwest Virginia Higher Ed, and it is to educate the public on how to access affordable healthcare, access information and on affordable health care in crisis regionally and nationally so we can understand that better. What kind of things can we do short and long term to improve those issues? And then share organizations and individuals to be able to have ideas for advocacy. And that program it's a Saturday, so it's most of the day on Saturday. And then the next one is May 1st, that we have a DEI Alliance, and that DEI conference is going to be at Bristol Motor Speedway from like 8:30 until 1:30, so not quite a full day. And the DEI Alliance is focused mostly on economic development and business, how diversity improves our outcomes in business and in economic development. So they've got some really good speakers and panels lined up for that. And the last one, and Karen's got a save the date deal for June 11th. And it's building workplaces that work, and it's being put on by ETSU Strong Brain Institute with their Better Workplaces Tennessee program that helps us all particularly look at trauma-informed care principles and practices and how using those in the workplace lead to better outcomes with our workers and with what we do. So I think, y'all, it quit snowing and it's not so cold, so everybody is doing all their programs, etc. So if y'all have things, again, share. If you're not part of Strong ACC, go on their website and you can become a member, and it costs nothing, but then you'll be sure to get their newsletter that comes out every Friday, as well as be able to send them your announcements as you have them to put out. And the same thing with Gary McGow. Anybody else have any questions or anything they want to share before we finish up 2 or 3 minutes early? Zach and Uriah, we want to really thank y'all for sharing. And of course, thank you for the work that you do in our community. The what we're hoping is progress with our still opioid and substance use disorder crisis in our region and in our country. So we thank you for the attention and the love and the compassion that y'all bring to that. So greatly appreciate it. All right. Well, the next meeting is going to be on Friday, the March 27th. They're the same, February. And so at 11, and somewhere I think I might have a list of some different topic ideas. Don't have one yet. So if anybody here knows something they would like to know about or would like to share, that would be great for y'all to do that. How many people here are familiar with Strong ACC or participate in some way or another? No, people aren't raising their hands or whatever much. Renee is, and Sky is.
Crossroads is a member, and we're familiar.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we might, I know they have a really good presentation that was done at Sullivan County Health Council recently. Might see if they could present and fill everybody in. They do collective impact, and it actually takes a long time before you can really do collective impact. Also, I'm looking at Pete Seibers. He's working with Choice Neighborhoods for Beyond Housing for Bristol, Virginia Housing Authority. And they're working on doing some different things and some interviews and focus groups and some exciting things along those lines with their planning grant. Is that good enough, Pete, for saying that? So, sure. All right. Well, thank y'all very much. Again, Zach and Uriah, thanks for taking time to be with us and appreciate y'all a lot. Oh, also, Zach's new to our Family Promise Board, so we're pretty excited to be able to overlap and work together in that way as well. So, all right. Take care, and we'll see y'all next time. And thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Margaret. See you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Okay.